Well, good morning. I'm Brian Hermann, and I'm the Acting Director of the Services Development Directorate. I appreciate the opportunity to provide a little bit of insight into our current development plans and priorities. As you saw from Mr. Timmerman's chart, we actually develop capabilities and deliver capabilities along three business lines. Business systems specifically, unified capabilities and enterprise services, and command and control systems. There have been some changes from last year that have already been pointed out somewhat. The MilCloud 2 effort moved under Mr. Jason Martin to consolidate all the hosting efforts into the computing and storage portfolio. And it really represents the reality that cloud hosting is an option in the continuum of infrastructure and platform services. We remain, however, linked, as all the services that we deliver are dependent upon that infrastructure for hosting, and we're pushing to virtualize the capabilities that we have in place today and looking for the benefits of cloud infrastructure, elasticity, and distributed delivery for resilient and efficient operations. I'll speak to each of the three development portfolios separately, but I'll begin with some common vision areas that cross the three areas. First of all, in terms of next slide, please. I got it. So in terms of these the business capabilities you see here, unified capabilities, it's really unified capabilities and enterprise services. Computing and storage, again, I said is moved under Mr. Martin. Business systems and command and control are the capabilities that we're delivering. The thing that I particularly like about the mission that we have here is that we're delivering capabilities more and more to everybody in the Department of Defense, as Mr. Deasy talked about, all the endpoints that are out there. These capabilities, in most cases, touch everybody across the Department of Defense. So in terms of strategy and engagement, we're driving to deliver common enterprise services across multiple network fabrics that are accessible from any approved device, mobile devices more and more often. So mobile enablement is a key part of our development strategy. The second line there, API-driven, means that we're taking meaningful pieces of our offerings and making them accessible from other, I guess mashup is probably the best word, applications. For example, why not make a chat capability available within a business system or within a command and control system? To be clear, we want to leverage these existing common services rather than having programs develop their own capabilities or creating similar stovepipe solutions that don't communicate amongst themselves. Our current services leverage traditional identity and access management capabilities, and we're looking at the new approaches that come in as innovations bring these capabilities into our existing services and our new services. I do want to spend a little bit more time than I did on these first three when I talk about the software development piece, because we are in fact developing and delivering capabilities. I strongly advocate what we've called for a long time the ABC approach. That means adopt before buy, before create. In some areas we can look to the best of breed existing DoD services for adoption. This aligns with the DoD Chief Management Office's category management approach, where services are designated as enterprise if they are the leading capability in the pack, regardless of where it comes from. So in industry, if you're working with another partner across the Department of Defense and you think you have the leading capability that we should be adopting, and it's already somewhere in the Department of Defense, we'd appreciate knowing about that, just in case we don't already as well. Similarly, if industry has a capability that meets 80% of our expectations, our requirements, we should probably be evaluating whether or not the other 20% need to be realized immediately, or if we can jointly do that as a collaboration with the open market. When we release requests for information, we're looking for you to tell us whether your product or service that you already have is proven and is already out there delivering either for the Department of Defense or similar size organizations around the world. Now, both of those capabilities, or both of those options, can cause us some trouble because essentially when we're adopting something that we didn't create custom for us, we are expecting that we're going to have to modify some of our processes rather than constantly believing in our uniqueness. Finally, and only kind of as a last resort, we actually create services where DoD missions do not align with the commercial world. The command and control capabilities that we talked about come to mind. That's not to say, however, that those capabilities don't have some common applications within them that come from commercial industry or other sources. So as Mr. Timmerman just mentioned briefly and kind of slightly off script, I want to speak just a moment about DevSecOps. And most people have talked about the DevOps piece. The Sec part is what we're really trying to get to. And if you can help us with that, I'm very interested in hearing it. When we have agile programs, typically what happens is we develop something very quickly, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever it is, and then we go through the lengthy process of testing it and accrediting the service for actual use at the hands of our customers. In my opinion, it doesn't matter how quickly we develop something if it doesn't actually get in the hands of the end users more quickly. So that's what DevSecOps is about. We want to automate all the things that we need to do to provide Mr. Greenwell the documentation, for example, that he can make an easy accreditation decision to ensure that we've built the security into the capability right from the start. So we need a pipeline and the tools to deploy software into operations much more quickly. All of our services also need operational insight so that we, when we're operating the service, understand how the service is performing, not only from our perspective, but from the perspective of our actual users as well, which is probably the most important perspective. And as we move to cloud enablement and virtualization of our services, we want to get out of the business of having to take services out of operation and move them over to a continuity of operation or COOP site. We want to have the service be agile enough to leverage those capabilities with cloud's elasticity and distributed delivery so that we not only get efficient operations but improved availability and reliability. So in the business systems area, we have existing services in all these areas, from financial management, logistics, contracting, order entry, which we call our storefront capability, which is actually the way organizations order services from DISA, and we're trying to expand that capability as well. But we also do human resources and installation and environment. So I need to know, again, where perhaps we have failed to leverage proven commercial tools and platforms that bring these back-end services together for improved business processes. In addition, category management, as I said before, is moving to the point where some of these capabilities are out of the agency level and actually are being used, or decisions are being made about whether or not to adopt them across the DoD enterprise, or at least across the agencies in the Fourth Estate. So I'm going to give you a couple specific capabilities. The DISA storefront, we're going to be releasing a request for quote in the second quarter with a projected award for storefront support in the third quarter of this fiscal year. The TC's inventory and billing information service, we're going to be releasing a request for quote in the end of FY20, which sounds like a long way off, but it's not necessarily. And it's something that again, I'm looking for folks to tell us if you have better ideas for how we go about that. So as we release requests for information and prior to requests for quotes, if we can get some guidance from folks that are delivering these capabilities to tell us whether or not there's a better way to do it, we're certainly open to it. And then the third one down there is the corporate management information system, which is more of an HR type of service. Again, we're going to release that one a little bit later, even in FY21, with an award in FY22. Again, are we doing something that's DISA or DoD unique here? and you have better options for us for commercial capabilities that are out there, we would like to know that. And then the TC's development and sustainment effort is in the same time frame. Again, there's some uniqueness to how the Department of Defense links up all our financial systems to our telecommunications services ordering. But again, we're open to suggestions in that topic. Our portfolio manager for business systems, Ms. Martha Jasper, and her team are at the tables out there, and we're looking forward to your insight into how we should improve these capabilities. So unified capabilities is actually also enterprise services. It's kind of where I came from, so I'll talk just a moment about this. Mr. Deasy mentioned the elephant in the room there, which is the DIOS capability. We'll jump into that, but right now what you see on the top line are the capabilities that we currently offer to the Department of Defense. And some of them are purely in operations and sustainment, like DE and DEPS and DCS, and others are in development, like DIOS. I take the things on the right-hand side of the chart separately and put DIOS down below there, because those things on the top of the chart are going to go away. We're going to be delivering these capabilities via DIOS, which means that we're going to be working with industry partners to deliver cloud-based services for office productivity and collaboration. And it's a big first step in what we call the Enterprise Collaboration and Productivity Services area. Capability set 1 is this set on the right-hand side of the chart. Capability sets 2 and 3 are on the left side of the chart. DIOS is, as Mr. Deasy pointed out, now going to be procured through the General Services Administration. It's going to use Schedule 70. If your organization is interested in working on the DIOS project and you're not on Schedule 70, come see me, and I have a GSA point of contact that can help get you onto Schedule 70 so that you can be part of that. If you've taken a look at our other draft RFPs that came out on DIOS, rest assured that the capabilities that we're looking to acquire remain the same. What it really means is that the rest of the federal government also has the same requirements, and we're going to try to use common vehicles to acquire those. The DoD has interoperability requirements, so we need to work closely together. Other organizations may be able to actually pursue slightly different technical solutions but use the same vehicles. And so that's a strategic shift that just helps us with some broader federal goals. The initial task orders are planned for May of next year. And again, if you're not on Schedule 70 and you want to be part of that, come talk to me. The other capabilities there are actually interesting topics. Voice over IP and global video services. So we run the enterprise voice programs out of our operations center under Mr. Martin, and video services we run as well. Those capabilities are essentially, there's some back-end connections, but mainly what those groups have done is to take collaborative capabilities for voice and video off of dedicated TDM networks and put them over our IP networks. So Mr. Martin's folks deliver voice services, meaning dial tone, to customers right at the enterprise level. That's what we want to do. And some organizations do their own dial tone and connect to us through the voice ISP, but we're working with the Enterprise Collaboration and Productivity Services Group, all the military departments, to make sure that we synchronize the offerings that we have today and what we're going to have in the future with the vision for how the DoD wants that to work. But right now, the way that if they don't already deliver their own capabilities, we highly encourage organizations to come over to the eVoIP and ECVoIP programs. And the GVS program has been very successful at that as well. But when we say ECAP's capability set 2, we're looking at how the department wants to architect those solutions in the future, and we know that some options are different than what we have today. Potentially, it could go the route of DIOS, where we actually have pure industry partnership delivering those capabilities rather than running them within our own data centers. So hosting decisions, what the architecture of those capabilities is a little bit more fluid, but DIOS as capability set number 1 is going forward fairly quickly. So there again is the DIOS option, and then GVS is going to be a support contract that'll be recompeted, not till 21, but again, that's going to be somewhat informed by exactly what comes out of capability sets 2 and 3 of the ECAPS program. So the final portfolio that I wanted to talk about today is the command and control capability. You heard a little bit about what's different about that, how we deliver command and control systems, as well as logistics support through the Global Combat Support System. These capabilities have been in place for some time now. They are actually ACAT level programs out of the JROC process, the formal acquisition process. It's a more DoD unique environment, as Admiral Norton mentioned. We are, however, moving towards a more modern cloud delivery of capabilities compared to the architecture that we've had in the past, where we'll now be a little bit more dependent upon the network to make sure that we can achieve the expected reliability and availability of these services. And this actually, as a challenge to industry, this actually includes how do we deliver capabilities that give the common operational picture for these services to end users that are potentially disadvantaged. So if we're cloud delivering services, how do you make it possible for essentially the tactical or disadvantaged users to have as good access to the content that they need for a common operational picture and to continue to execute their mission when they are in fact not connected or are poorly connected to the enterprise. So that's one of the big challenges that we have in the C2 area as we modernize these capabilities. We expect to have a capability development contract competed with an RFP in the second quarter of this fiscal year, awarding the contract for those services, development services, by the end of this fiscal year. And then the GCSS, the Global Combat Support System development and integration contract will actually follow slightly behind that in the first quarter of FY20, and we have folks from our command and control portfolio, Mr. Rusty Baldwin and his team at the program tables to talk about the opportunities that they have for you. And I think that's all I have for prepared topics to discuss. Happy to take a few questions if you have any.
Sir, we do have a couple of questions. How will DISA rationalize a DevSecOps and Agile capabilities against the requirements of the DoD 5000 series?
Oh, you've nailed it. You've nailed it. Let me get out my 30-page answer to that question. So actually, I think probably the best way to say that is we have reasonable people working on solving that problem. Meaning that we're working with the test community, with the authorizing official community, to make sure that we can come up with new processes to test as we develop, to provide the artifacts that are required for the services to be accredited much more quickly. And as a kind of an aside to that, one of the places that we want to deliver more quickly to is the App Store, essentially, the mobile capabilities. The applications that need to be available for our services need to be developed as quickly as the ones that you get every night on your phone when you get updates. Not only do we need to put them in place in the first place, but we need to keep them current and keep them secure over time. So that requires us to operate at a much tighter time cycle. It can't just be about the development. It has to be about the entire process.
Sir, what contract vehicle will be used to procure TC's development and sustainment effort? IT-70, Alliant, Encore 3, etc.
So the TC's contract. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay, there it is. So it's the well, I'm not 100% certain because we had the TCs and the TIBI. The first one here, we're still working the act strategy for which exact vehicle that will wind up on. But the development piece that we have on the following slide for TCs itself is actually a small business set aside. That's the intent as of right now.
Sir, one more question. Does DISA foresee the DO's contract will be a MAC IDIQ? Will there be a small business set-aside component?
So the GSA procurement is going to be, as I mentioned, a Schedule 70 offering. It'll be it will not be what we typically in the Department of Defense call an IDIQ, but it will be. It will include plenty of opportunities for partnering at all levels. We know that in fact the migration support that it's going to be required to help move everybody in the Department of Defense over to these enterprise services are probably more than any single vendor could possibly do. And we've talked to a number of smaller firms that certainly have technical ability to improve those capabilities in the future. So it's going to be a Schedule 70 BPA, and there will be lots of partnering opportunities under that.